Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, of course, but we're going to pick out the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable story, a sleeper story, which is one that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit, and then our favourite story. So let's jump straight in with the biggest story of the week. Obviously, it was the budget. What part kind of stood out for you of that story?
I think it was the spending initiatives, $14.6 billion in cost of living support over the next 4 years, money for energy price relief, rental assistance, expanded income support for people out of work. There was a big boost to Medicare, including a tripling of the cost of bulk billing incentives for GPs. That means that more people will be able to be bulk billed when they go and see a doctor. Good news. Single parents will get welfare payments until their youngest child turns 14. More money for unemployment benefits, youth allowance, Austudy, all that sort of stuff. Bottom line, a surplus of $4.2 billion built on lower welfare payments and higher mining tax receipts. I think the spending initiatives for mine were the big news out of the budget this week. What about you, Michael?
Well, for me, it was kind of the perhaps unintended consequences of the budget. And really, it's the flow-on effect for interest rates, the potential for some more hikes now because there's so much money going into the economy from the budget, $21 billion. You've had a whole heap of economists, market economists, lining up to say it is adding to inflationary pressure. That's despite the Treasurer basically saying it'll do the opposite because of the cost of living package within the budget. It won't necessarily take effect straight away. We'll see what the Reserve Bank board does in kind of coming months as some of those kind of payments start to filter through the economy. Worth mentioning very, very briefly, Sean, that last weekend we saw auction clearance rates hitting a 12-month high. So clearly buyers weren't too worried about the last interest rate hike, the 25 basis point hike that came at the start of May. So hey, let's just see how all of this plays out, which feels a very kind of flippant way to dismiss such a big story as the potential for interest rate hikes. But hey, as far as the property market goes, undersupply of property seems to be the big driver of prices at the moment.
Sure was. Big week for the budget. What about the most remarkable story for the week, Michael?
Well, look, don't you think it's remarkable, Sean, that we've got our trade minister, Don Farrell, in China, that he was there for trade talks with Beijing, actually in China this week, which is, I think, remarkable for 2 reasons. First, it shows just how far Australia's come in the last 12 months in international relations. Just a bit under a year since the Albanese government came to power. The change was a bit of a circuit breaker for the relationship with China because towards the end of the previous government, relations had soured so badly that Chinese officials wouldn't even kind of pick up the phone. 12 months later, we're actually in the country for talks. The other reason this is so significant is because of the impact on Australia's economy. We've had the tariffs slapped on around $20 billion of exports, kind of barley, wine, coal, timber, more since 2018. If the relationship continues to improve, the boost to the Australian economy could well be significant. I think it's a remarkable story, just how far we have come in just a year.
I agree with that one, Michael.
Sleeper story. Let's move on to that one. What have you got for us?
The CEO of PwC, one of the big accounting firms in Australia, stepped down earlier this week, and now other partners are facing disciplinary action. What happened? A former PwC partner, Peter Collins, back in 2014, 15, 16, leaked information about the federal government's tax plans to other partners and staff at PwC, despite signing a series of confidentiality agreements. Now, the leaked documents gave PwC an unfair advantage to pitch for work, and it used that advantage. Multiple partners were aware of this leak. Now, last December, the Tax Practitioners Board terminated Collins' licence. It had played through over a number of years, but the scandal just gets bigger and bigger. There's been a Senate inquiry. Assistant Treasurer Stephen Jones is involved. The Greens are upset about it. Last week, the chief executive of PwC, Tom Seymour, said partners directly involved in the leaks of the tax documents had left the firm. Then he had to concede he had received emails about the leaks himself and was aware that they were being used to pitch work to clients. On Monday, he stepped down, followed by 2 other senior leaders. Now the main accounting professional body is talking about disciplinary action against those partners. Incredible story in the world of accounting.
Yeah, sure is. That is huge. All right, favourite story time, Sean. I've got a nomination for this.
Yes, go on.
Air New Zealand renting out bunk beds by the hour for their long-haul flights. It's necessary. These are for economy passengers, mind you. These flights are so long. Auckland to New York can take up to 17 hours. Auckland to Chicago just a little bit shorter. Understandable then that you might be willing to fork out $100 New Zealand per hour for a 4 or 6 hour stint in the 6-bed Skynest, and you get a heap of stuff. You get a reading light, you get earplugs, you get a sheet, a blanket, and a pillow. You got everything you need for a nice nap, I reckon. But the problem for me, Sean, is the fact that when you have a nap and you get up afterwards, you get really cold.
You do, yes, that's true.
And you also kind of get irritable. Like, it's actually almost better if you didn't go to sleep, you just kind of stayed awake. So I'm just picturing the poor flight attendants that have to wake people up after these naps, dealing with kind of shivering, irritable people for 17 hours all the way to New York. It just doesn't sound very pleasant.
No, it doesn't. Look, a quick mention for my favourite story. The boss of IBM, Arvind Krishna, came out. He said what many of us suspected: working from home can be detrimental to your career, particularly if you want to be a manager, because you've got to manage people and it's much harder to do that at home. Well, we've thought that's been going on, but we haven't heard someone senior like the boss of IBM say it. Good on you for saying it as you see it. Don't agree with it, but at least he said it.
Yes, indeed. All right, there we go. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget as well, the Amazon Echo smart speaker range comes with Alexa built in. Simply say, Alexa, play the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed podcast to catch the latest episode. Grab yours now at amazon.com.au. Don't forget to hit follow. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed.